what do you think suffering means? Any thoughts on that?
Having hardships being brought upon you.
Having hardships being brought upon you. That is a really good explanation of suffering. So sometimes when people are suffering, they're struggling, right? And sometimes we can't really understand what they're going through unless we walk a mile in their shoes. Well, can you fit other people's shoes? It's not literal, right? That doesn't mean that you can wear my size 9s, right? But sometimes we don't get to suffer like them, but what can we do to be helpful? We can just be with them, pray with them, hold their hand, be kind to them, smile at them. So there's a lot of different ways to help people who are suffering.
Have mercy on me, Lord, because I am frail. Heal me, Lord, because my bones are shaking in terror. My whole body is completely terrified. But you, Lord, how long will this last? Come back to me, Lord, deliver me. Save me for the sake of your faithful love. But no one is going to praise you when they are dead. Who gives you thanks from the grave? I'm worn out from groaning. Every night I drench my bed with tears. I soak my couch all the way through.
This idea that God controls everything, that God is in the midst of suffering. It's this idea, again, of theodicy, that it goes along with the saying, that half-truth that we've talked about before, everything happens for a reason. And can I encourage you to never say that again? Because what you're implying, and what I'm implying when I've said it at some point in my life, what I'm implying is that God wanted this particular thing to happen. And see, here's the thing. It makes sense until we walk through our own personal pain. And then it doesn't make sense anymore. Everything happens for a reason is not the way in which we understand this theological concept of suffering. This idea that God is in control of everything, it's the theological idea of providence. Where is God's role in the world? What does God control? What does not God? How does God work? See, for some, God is this micromanager. But see, that is not what I believe we see in Scripture. If you go back and you see, even at the very beginning of Genesis, when God said, I created humanity and I gave you, it says, dominion and rule over that particular earth. In other words, I'm giving the control back to you, people, God said. So live a life of faith. And then we see throughout the story of faith, one after another, people making decision after decision after decision. That is the story of our faith, essentially, in a nutshell. Different people saying, okay, God, I've got this, and then they fail, and then God says, oh my gosh, it's that face palm, I've decided. And then they come back, have mercy on me, oh God, and God forgives, and it's this lesson all the way through, and then you get to the New Testament, and God says, fine, I'll come and show you if I have to. And even then, we see that God gives us the power of choice to make decisions. And so often our story of our faith is us missing the mark, and yet the reminder over and over that God does not leave nor forsake us, never, ever, ever, no matter what we're going through. See, it's the message of Easter. It's the message that the worst thing is never the last thing. And that no matter what you're walking through doesn't have the final word. There is always hope. So how does God work in the world then? If God is not a micromanager, if God is not in control of every single way in which a puppet above, how does God work? Our understanding of faith says that God works through us. It becomes our job as people of faith to encourage, to show up, to love, to show mercy, to have compassion, to do as Job. If you go through the whole book of Job, all these friends did it wrong until the friend who just came and sat beside his friend in his pain and said nothing at all but I am here. See, God expects us to encourage one another, to be watching around us, to turn to your beloved when they're suffering and say, I got you, and you've got this. To pay attention and to take care of our siblings. Remember, the scripture says we are our siblings' keepers. That's what it says. That's what we're left with. So it's up to us. So I want you to turn to your neighbor and I want you to say, you've got this. I want you to tell them, you are beloved. I want you to turn now and I want you to say, you are God's beloved. Don't forget it. And now I want you to take the message of light, of hope, of love into a world that is hurting. And I want you to tell someone today, maybe through your smile, maybe through a simple message, you've got this, you are beloved. And see, that's what gives us hope.